Hey guys, Nick Eastwood here for Ace 8 Poker, and today we are looking at a crazy cash game hand from Ace 8 Live in Coventry last year. But before we get started, if you do enjoy the video, make sure you drop it a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on that notification bell. Let's get started. So something I should mention before we start this hand is that this was a crazy action game. We've got lots of players playing 90% of their hands, and just previously, these two players that we're going to be seeing, Umesh and Jamie, they've just played a hand where Umesh has bluffed Jamie, and Jamie's folded and Umesh has showed him. So that is very important information for the start of this hand, as we see Umesh calling in the small blind with Queen 6 of hearts, and Jamie going for the isolate with Ace 5 of diamonds, very reasonable play. As you can see, all sorts going on here as Vinny gets involved with the Ace 8 offsuit, something I wouldn't generally recommend. And then it comes back to Umesh, and he's certainly not going to be folding anything like this. And it's probably important to say, Umesh has all sorts of hands here. He's been limping with any two cards, stuff like 8-7 offsuit, 3 deuce offsuit. He's playing almost all of his hands, so he could have pretty much anything in this spot. So we are going to go 3 players to a flop, and that flop is going to be 4-5 jack with 2 hearts. And it's on Umesh, who decides to donk. Now there's been a lot of donk betting, and that's leading into an aggressor post-flop in this game, especially from Umesh. He does decide to lead the Queen 6 of hearts with his flush draw. There's certainly a lot of hands that Umesh could have here. As I said before, he could have loads of gut shots like 8-6 offsuit, 7-6 offsuit. There are a lot of hands that Umesh could be doing this with. And that's going to lead to the decision that Jamie decides to make here. So Umesh does go for a bet of £750, and now it's on Jamie. So Jamie's obviously been playing with Umesh this entire evening, and he knows that Umesh has been incredibly wide. So he's going to make a play here. Obviously, we're not in theory land here, guys. This is super exploitative. Jamie's going to go for a raise here, thinking if Umesh is going to have all kinds of draws, really terrible draws, like all those offsuit. I remember there's loads of offsuit combos of straight draws that he could have. Jamie's going to go for a value raise here with the middle pair, which is incredibly high level. He's looking to just get value from all of those draws that he thinks Umesh will definitely not fold to one raise. So Jamie goes ahead and raises to £1,800, and after Vinny gets out of the way, Umesh is going to go for the call, which we obviously always expect. But remember, he's not just going to have flush draws here. He's going to have a lot of flush draws, but he's also going to have a lot of offsuit straight draws, and obviously some good hands as well, like 2 pairs, maybe some top pairs as well, potentially. But it's also important to remember that having a 5 is really good for Jamie in this spot, because it's going to block a lot of the strong donking hands that Umesh is going to have, stuff like 5-4, pocket 5s. So the turn, this hand gets even more interesting as it's the 4 of spades, and Umesh decides to donk again. Now, donking usually is the product of a card that changes the board in your favor. This one, I would say, absolutely does not do that for Umesh. Now, Umesh, considering he's going to be playing all sorts of hands, is going to have a lot of 4x, but maybe not 4x that would donk the flop. So stuff like ace 4, would you really want to donk that? He's more likely to have stuff like pocket 4s, 5-4, pocket 5s. All of those you, I guess, could donk on the turn, but this card really favors the overpair region, obviously, for the aggressor pre-flop, which is Jamie. And Jamie's obviously going to have a lot of strong top pair. So I don't really like this donk at all. And you could say that if he's playing all sorts of hands, he's going to have a lot of 4x. But unfortunately, if you're playing all sorts of hands, it also does mean you're going to have a lot of rubbish as well. And in this case, obviously, that is what Umesh has. So facing this 2K donk from Umesh, I think Jamie's only left with one decision here, which is to call. I don't think he can fold against a player that is this erratic. He's still going to have all of those random draws, and as we said, having a very wide range doesn't necessarily give you an advantage on this card. And as we mentioned on the flop, that 5 of diamonds is super, super valuable to Jamie, who's blocking a lot of the strongest hands that Umesh can have. So he's definitely going to want to call here, certainly not raising, definitely not folding, so we're going to take a river. Now the river is extremely interesting. It's not a heart, but it is the 8 of clubs, which completes 7-6. Now 7-6 offsuit is something that we mentioned that Umesh can definitely have in his range from before the flop. He's playing all sorts of hands, obviously 7-6 suited, definitely. So there's a lot of combos of 7-6 here. I don't think, based on what I saw from this game, Umesh would play any differently. So the 8 of clubs won't be Jamie's favorite card. It will complete some straights. And I think that Jamie's plan would have been to call on a lot of rivers, certainly the brickiest of rivers. This is not a brick, unfortunately for him. But what is interesting here is that Umesh decides to go for a non-all-in. Now, there's only 9K in the middle, and Umesh has about 6,000 backs. So it's about a 2/3 pot, which is quite a natural jamming size for the river. But Umesh decides to not take that option and instead bets 1/3 pot for £3,000, which is extremely interesting for many reasons. And now this becomes sort of a pot odds decision. When someone bets 1/3 in the river, you really don't need to win that often in order to call and be profitable. Now Jamie needs to decide whether this call can be profitable 25% of the time, so we're going to need to look at the reasons why that might be. The first of those reasons is obviously that Umesh is incredibly wide and incredibly erratic and aggressive, therefore could have all sorts of hands, doesn't just have to have 7-6 or boats, certainly not. And just previously previously, as we already mentioned, he was shown a huge random bluff, just the orbit before, by the same player. So this is definitely going to push him at least towards that mark. Another thing to mention is that on this 8 of clubs, when you only have 2/3 pot left, if you had something like 7-6 to complete the straight, would you not just want to go all in if you had a full house? This bet almost seems like either a jack, which decided to take a very strange line for a jack, which would be donking twice, both on flop and turn, and then betting small on the river, or is it more likely that Umesh is just going to try and get a better price on his bluff for a small sizing? So after Umesh's bet of £3,000, Jamie goes into the tank for about 4 minutes, and Umesh is just sitting there praying for a fold. Jamie trying to figure all these things out, coupling everything that we've mentioned together, and eventually does come out of the tank with a call. And Umesh is very reluctant to show his cards, eventually just flicks them up to him and then tosses them into the muck, and Jamie will take down this £12,000 pot. Well played. So what do you think about this crazy hand from 8 Live in Coventry? Do you like Umesh's donk on the flop and turn? How do you feel about how Jamie played it? Let us know in the comments section down below. I've been Nick Eastwood for 8 Poker, and we will see you on the next one.